My name is David Carter. I'm 73 years old. Some of you may remember me from a video I shared not long ago. The response to that meant more than I can explain, and I want to thank you for it. But today, I need to talk about something I didn't say back then. Something more personal. Something that changed the way I understand love, time, and what it really means to share a life with someone. And I need you to listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you might save you from a kind of pain that doesn't leave, the kind that stays with you for decades. My wife Linda and I were married for 41 years. That's longer than some people have been alive, and for most of those years I truly believed we had a good marriage. Not perfect, but good, steady, safe. The kind of marriage people look at and assume it will last forever. But here's what no one tells you about long marriages. You can live with someone for decades and still not really know them. You can share a bed, a home, and a routine, and still become strangers in the ways that matter most. Not because you hate each other. Not because someone did something terrible, but because life slowly pulls you apart while you're not paying attention. Linda passed away 6 years ago. Pancreatic cancer, diagnosed in March, gone by July, 4 months. One moment she was laughing in our kitchen, and the next, we were sitting in a doctor's office hearing words that didn't feel real. And in her final weeks, lying in that hospice bed, she said something to me that I think about every single day. She said, "David, we spent too much time trying to be right, and not enough time trying to be close." At first I didn't understand what she meant. I felt defensive, because in my mind I had been a good husband. I provided. I stayed faithful. I showed up. We didn't fight much. We had a home. We had stability. But that was the problem. We had stability, and I mistook stability for connection. For years, Linda would suggest small things, nothing dramatic, just small moments she wanted to share. Let's take a cooking class together. Why don't we go for evening walks anymore? Remember when we used to talk for hours before falling asleep? And almost every time, I had an answer ready. I'm tired. Work has been stressful. We can do it later. It's not the right time. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I really wasn't. I just thought we had time. I thought those little moments were optional. I thought the big things mattered more, the bills, the responsibilities, the adult stuff. I thought love was proven by being dependable. And yes, dependability matters. But what I didn't understand is that love isn't built only in the big moments. It's built in the tiny ones, the ordinary ones. The moments that don't look important until they're gone forever. The way you look at each other across the breakfast table. The way you listen when your partner talks about something that matters to them. The way you choose them even when you're tired. And I stopped choosing those moments. Not all at once, gradually. So slowly that I didn't even notice the distance growing between us. One missed conversation became another. One not tonight became a habit. One maybe later turned into never. And Linda, being the kind of woman she was, adapted. She stopped asking, she stopped suggesting, she stopped reaching for me. She found her own friends, her own routines, her own world. And we became two people living in the same house, sharing the same last name, doing life side by side. But not truly together. I didn't see it. Or maybe I did, but I told myself it was normal. I told myself this is just what happens when people have been married a long time. The passion fades, the excitement disappears. Life becomes routine, but routine can be dangerous, because routine can hide neglect. When Linda got sick, everything changed. Suddenly, time wasn't something we assumed we had. It became something we could count. It became a deadline. And in those final months, we talked more honestly than we had in years. She told me things I never knew, dreams she had quietly let go of, pain she carried without making it my problem. Moments she felt invisible while sitting right beside me. One night, a few weeks before she passed, she told me about a trip she had always wanted to take. She wanted to go to Ireland. Her grandfather had grown up there, and she had always dreamed of seeing the countryside, walking through small villages, hearing the music in a local pub, and standing on the land where her family's story began. She had mentioned it to me more times than I can count, and every time I dismissed it. Too expensive. Not now. Maybe when we retire. We never went, and now we never would. The worst part wasn't that she said it with anger. She didn't. She said it with sadness, with resignation, like she accepted years ago that she would never experience that dream with me. I asked her why she never pushed harder, why she didn't insist, why she didn't fight me on it, and she looked at me and said something I'll never forget. She said, "Because I didn't want you to do it for me. I wanted you to want it with me." That sentence broke something inside me. Because she was right. She didn't want a trip out of obligation. She wanted a partner who cared because she cared. Someone who was excited because she was excited. Someone who didn't treat her dreams like an inconvenience. And I couldn't give her that. So listen to me, because this is important. The biggest threat to a relationship isn't always cheating. It isn't always fighting. It isn't always some dramatic betrayal. Sometimes, the biggest threat is indifference. It's taking each other for granted. It's the slow erosion that happens when you stop trying because you assume your partner will always be there. You stop asking questions because you think you already know them. You stop making effort because you think love is automatic. And then one day, you wake up next to someone who feels like a stranger. Or worse, you wake up and they're gone. After Linda passed, I found a notebook in her bedside drawer. She'd been writing in it for years. I didn't even know it existed. And reading it felt like meeting a woman I had lived with, but never fully seen. She wrote about loneliness, about feeling unheard, about moments that hurt her that I never even noticed. Times I was physically present but emotionally absent. Times I chose work over her. Times I looked at my phone while she was trying to talk to me. But she also wrote about love, about the man she married, about hoping that version of me would come back, about trying to reach me and not knowing how. And I realized something that made me sick to my stomach. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't abusive. I wasn't unfaithful. I was just careless. I got comfortable. I thought showing up was enough. I thought paying the bills was enough. I thought not doing anything wrong meant I was doing everything right. But relationships don't die from one big mistake. They die from 1,000 small ones. So if you're in a relationship right now, I want you to ask yourself something. When was the last time you had a real conversation with your partner? Not about schedules, responsibilities, or what's for dinner. A real conversation about dreams, fears, thoughts, memories. When was the last time you did something just because it would make them smile? Not because it was a birthday, not because it was an anniversary, just because you wanted them to feel loved. When was the last time you looked at them and felt grateful they're still here? If you can't remember, you might be making the same mistake I made. Your partner will not be here forever. That's not pessimism. That's reality. One of you will go first. And when that day comes, you don't get a do-over. You don't get to go back and have the conversations you avoided. You don't get to take the trips you delayed. You don't get to say the words you assumed they already knew. Linda and I had 41 years, and I wasted too many of them being comfortable instead of connected. Being right instead of being close. Being present instead of engaged. Don't make my mistake. Love isn't something you feel and then stop working on. Love is something you practice. Every day, in small ways, in quiet ways, in ways that seem ordinary until it's too late. After Linda died, people told me I was a good husband. They meant well, but they were wrong. I wasn't a good husband. I was an adequate husband. I met the minimum requirements. I didn't cheat. I didn't abandon her. I didn't hurt her on purpose. But that's a low bar. Being a good partner means building intimacy on purpose, choosing vulnerability, staying curious, making effort, prioritizing connection even when you're tired, busy, or stressed. And I didn't do that. And now I live with the regret of knowing I had something precious, and I let it slip away. Even now, 6 years later, I still think about Ireland. I still think about how little it would have cost me to say yes. A week of my time. Some money, that's it. And it would have meant everything to her. I think about the cooking classes she wanted to take, the evening walks, the late-night talks, all the small bridges she tried to build, and all the times I refused to cross them. I said later, and later never came. It never does. If you love someone, don't wait for the perfect time to show them. Don't assume they know. Don't take them for granted. Ask them about their dreams. Listen to their stories. Do the little things they suggest, even if it doesn't interest you, because strengthening your bond should interest you. Be present. Be curious. Be intentional, because one day, you might be where I am, sitting alone, looking at old photos, reading old words, realizing you had everything you needed and you didn't appreciate it until it was gone. I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty. I'm telling you this because you still have time. If your partner is still beside you, you still have time. You can still talk, you can still reconnect, you can still create memories that matter. But you have to do it now. On my desk, I keep a photograph of Linda from our honeymoon in 1972. She's laughing in the sunlight, her hair blowing in the wind, so full of hope and life. And when I look at that picture, I think about the woman she became. Still kind, still beautiful, but carrying a quiet sadness in her eyes that I helped create. Without even realizing it, Linda was right. We wasted too much time being right instead of being close. Don't waste your time the way I wasted mine. Love the people in your life actively, intentionally, while you still can. This channel exists for stories like this, for lessons learned too late, for reminders that time is not guaranteed. If this message helped you, please subscribe and turn on notifications for more. And if something in this story hit your heart, leave a comment and hit the like button. And if you have a story of your own, something you've learned that might help someone else, there's a form in the description. Fill it out. Maybe next time, we'll be sharing your story.